Welcome to the 53rd video in the series Foundations of Communist Organizing. Today we'll be going over the 1974 piece by the ICP, the Communist Party and the Tradition of the Left, and we'll be going over the introduction today. I have split this series into 6 different pieces: Introduction, Part 1, Centralism, Part 2, The Party, Part 3, Internal Party Struggle, Part 4, Party Development and Organic Centralism, Part 5, Tactics, and then finally Conclusion and Appendix. So look forward to that development there, but this is starting solely with the introduction. And I have subtitled this, Mature Parties Achieve Unity Through Shared Doctrine, Not Coercion. It must be kept in mind that the rejection of party development via factions engaging in internal struggle within the party is, in fact, a maturation of the party. Internal struggle and factions within the party can only be understood as harmful, though it is true that a split can be productive under circumstances. The aim should be to achieve party development not through struggle, but instead through scientific analysis and the real life of the party. Through historical analysis and maturity of the class struggle, doctrinal unity and systematized tactical norms can be established in facts, texts, and theses, rather than blindly groping around and adhering to whatever seems right at a given time. This codified tactics runs throughout the party structure and in its scientific work. The organizational structure and tactics are in a dialectical relationship with one another, and through the crystallization of these tactics throughout the party, organic methods to achieve them can be produced as the organizational structure and the rank and file respond to necessity on the grounds by spontaneously organizing themselves as necessary for their conditions. However, simply having the correct organizational structure and principles does not mean that all tactics can be used. Rather, tactics which the rank and file and/or center cannot accept will produce internal conflict, factions, and ultimately, for the use of organizational coercion to carry them out. Hence, there should be a collective understanding of common tactics at play, so that there are no surprises which can result in a breach of discipline. Leadership should at all times respect the norms and cardinal rules of tactics instilled within the program and all other aspects of the party. These tactics are not based on a consultative assembly or battles between minorities and majorities within the party, but instead based on anonymous, impersonal collective work, a fundamental task held by all members of the party within the framework of the program. All aspects of the party's life, its doctrine, ethos, program, tactics, principles, final goal, the organizational structure, the internal conditions of the party, the environment of the party and all of its varying organs, and the actual stages and process by which the party reaches its final goal are in a dialectical relationship with one another at all points, which produces the daily activity of the party, which in turn produces the rest. The most developed organizational form of the party is one which can produce centralization and discipline with unity via fraternal solidarity, rather than by any form of coercive, disciplinary force. This requires a rejection of, for example, struggles between individuals or between factions within the party, such as criticism and self-criticism in formal means, outside the most egregious and particular circumstances. In addition, leaders as individuals are important, but should not either be the face of the party or the scapegoat of it, with problems or successes in the party resting on the daily activity of the whole, rather than on any individuals. If an individual can be blamed for issues, then that is a problem with the organizational structure, as it has allowed an individual to break with it, or the organizational structure allows for problems. Hence, our internal work amongst comrades should be one of a scientific community of thinkers and actors, not one of politicking, moralizing, or witch hunts. Beyond anything, we need to understand that opportunism tends to come from above, taking advantage of formal structure of the party, such as processes of attacking individuals, in order to take control of the movement. Hence, political struggle within the party, including against opportunists, can produce the structures which grant opportunists power. The best response to this is to have a focus on creating such an organizational form that allows that centralization and discipline resultant only by fraternal solidarity. Any individual aggrandizement should be rejected within the party, including any conception of careerism, rewards, or competition. However, the necessity of professional full-time revolutionaries cannot be understated. Therefore, the party requires some means of making it so its membership, which is meant to be made up of such full-time revolutionaries, be able to subsist. This may involve a commune of the venture communism, which is essentially vulgar communism conception that we talked about within the communist mode production section, put into place as a prefiguration of communist society, just some form of dual power, which allows for financial and material support carried out autonomously from the bourgeois state. Lenin talked about the need for financial organizations and with worker cooperatives and the like that the party enters into and takes control of so that it can maintain itself, get the weapons that it needs, literally munitions, but also food and other resources, and be able to support a professional full-time revolutionary corps. Oh, and also, of course, publication, because in fact, making a newspaper and distributing it is not free. Though it's thankfully gotten much cheaper with the advent of digital forms. But of course, a digital form can always be shut down, which is why at some point you definitely want to think about the development of a paper-based format. Continuing. The party organization, centralism, and discipline is unitary throughout its program, which is defended through extreme coherence of organic method, which seeks to maintain the party as a prefiguration of communism. For this, no form of coercion can be used by the party to compel unity, which must instead be spontaneous. Individuals are disciplined in and through the unitary program of the party, which expels any new ideological ideas or schools of thought by strict adherence to its program, thus banning internal political struggle in both official and unofficial terms by removing the basis of such. In turn, to defend the program of the party's external propaganda, the party rejects both localism, the conception that propaganda needs to be localized for a particular population, thus rejecting propaganda entirely, and trending only towards either proper education or agitation, as propaganda can only be understood as targeted information for a certain section of society. So just putting that out there. Either they have a different definition of propaganda than I'm familiar with, or they're tossing out propaganda, which if that's the case, sure, just pure agitation or pure education. Okay. And contingentism, the belief that something can be necessary one time but not another. In other words, it seeks universal agitation or education which functions at all times and places. And that is my summary of the ICP's The Communist Party in the Tradition of the Left introduction. As usual, if you'd like to go over the quotations I derived the summary from, you can go into the description below and you'll find a link to this Google document. You'll also find a link to the United Marxist Pact Discord server if you want to come in and talk about this or anything else related to communism. We would love to have you. Tomorrow we will be going over the Communist Party and the Tradition of the Left, Part 1, Centralism. Thanks for joining me for today's topical summary, and I hope to see you then.